The image is indelible. IanBaker-Finch, the affable Australian, hoisting the Claret Jug against the backdrop of Royal Birkdale in July 1991. It was the culmination of over a decade of determined play across the globe, the pinnacle achieved with a dazzling weekend performance that secured his place in golf history. Yet within a few short years, this image of triumph would be starkly juxtaposed with scenes of profound struggle and public failure. Baker-Finch's story stands as one of golf's most dramatic and cautionary tales. His was not a gradual fading, but a sudden, precipitous, and seemingly inexplicable loss of form, triggered paradoxically by the very achievement that should have cemented his status. Before his dramatic turn, Baker-Finch had built a solid, respectable career. Turning professional in 1979, he accumulated 17 worldwide titles between 1983 and 1993. He secured victories on the PGA Tour, European Tour, Japan Golf Tour, and the PGA Tour of Australasia. Despite this success, he wasn't typically counted among the absolute elite of global golf prior to his major breakthrough. His relationship with the Open Championship prior to 1991 was one of promise mixed with fragility. His debut in 1984 at St. Andrews saw him make headlines by holding the 36-hole and 54-hole leads, only to falter with a final round 79, finishing tied ninth. Subsequent years brought missed cuts and modest finishes, though a tied sixth finish at St. Andrews in 1990 hinted at his potential on the links stage. The 1991 Open Championship at Royal Birkdale, however, was where potential translated into triumph. Tied for the lead after 54 holes with Mark O'Meara, Baker-Finch produced stunning golf over the weekend. He shot a third round 64, followed by a final round 66, the lowest weekend total in Open history at the time. His final round was ignited by a spectacular front nine score of 29-5, seizing control of the tournament. He ultimately won by 2 strokes over fellow Australian Mike Harwood, finishing with a total score of 272-8. This victory catapulted Baker-Finch into the limelight. He briefly entered the top 10 of the official world golf ranking, reaching a career high of 10th. Crucially, the win also granted him a 10-year exemption on the PGA Tour, securing his playing privileges until 2001. It was a victory that seemingly provided the security and platform for him to ascend to a consistently higher level in the game. Instead, the Claret Jug became an unexpected catalyst for doubt and decline. The triumph seemed to recalibrate his internal expectations to an unsustainable level. He had proven he could beat the best, but this appeared to create intense internal pressure to consistently dominate and prove he belonged among the game's true elite, a group he hadn't previously felt part of. This shift is evident in his perception of his 1992 season. Despite a runner-up finish at the prestigious Players' Championship and a win in Australia, he reportedly considered the year a failure. What should have been solid consolidation looked disappointing compared to the title of Open Champion. The victory, rather than freeing him, had seemingly trapped him under a heavier weight of expectation, largely self-imposed. Compounding this internal pressure were the external demands that came with major championship status. Baker-Finch found himself with less time, not more, as he became involved in numerous ventures and commitments. Known for his decency, he reportedly turned down nobody, attending countless functions and stretching himself thin. Amidst these pressures, Baker-Finch made a fateful decision: to fundamentally alter his golf swing. He embarked on a quest for greater length off the tee. This pursuit was viewed with skepticism by those who knew his game best. Renowned coach David Leadbetter, who worked with Baker-Finch, noted that he possessed the perfect game for the majors, before the changes. Steady, not exceptionally long, but complemented by a beautiful short game and exceptional putting. Leadbetter believed Baker-Finch was never content, and that the drive for more length was his downfall. Similarly, his mentor, Australian legend Peter Thomson, considered Baker-Finch's story a tragedy, stating he was already one of the best from 100 yards in and had absolutely no need to acquire extreme length. Baker-Finch himself admitted a long-standing insecurity about his swing, feeling he never quite belonged alongside players like Nick Faldo or Greg Norman. The victory seemed to intensify his desire to transform his game into something it wasn't naturally suited to be. This quest led him down a path of seeking advice from a multitude of sources. Fellow professionals, including major champions like Nick Price, Sandy Lyle, Seve Ballesteros, and Greg Norman, offered tips. He consulted numerous coaches, sometimes receiving unsolicited advice. This cacophony of opinions began to cloud his mind and interfere with the natural rhythm and feel that had brought him success. What began as tinkering and heightened expectations soon spiraled into a profound crisis of confidence. The decline was steep and accelerating. Baker-Finch described reaching a point where he didn't even want to be out on the golf course due to his poor play. Missing cuts became an ingrained habit, and his world ranking plummeted. A baffling aspect of his struggle was the stark disconnect between his performance in practice and under tournament pressure. Reports consistently described him hitting shots flawlessly on the range, demonstrating that the physical skill remained largely intact. Yet stepping onto the first tee in competition, the mechanics would betray him, often resulting in weak drives into the wrong fairway. He recounted being able to shoot scores like 66 in Wednesday Pro-Ams, only to follow with a 76 in the Thursday tournament round, acknowledging that's mental. This disparity underscored the deeply psychological nature of his problem. As confidence eroded, fear took its place. A specific dread began to haunt him, the fear of hitting the ball left, particularly the snap hook, especially when out-of-bounds stakes lurked. This fear wasn't just background anxiety, it became an active impediment, particularly potent on the first tee with everyone watching. Desperate for a solution, Baker-Finch consulted an astonishing array of experts, over 30 coaches, sports psychologists, hypnotists, nutritionists, healers, and swing gurus. He received over 4,500 letters from the public offering cures and advice, answering almost all of them. Nothing worked. The Open Championship, the scene of his greatest triumph, would also become the stage for his most public failures. At St. Andrews in 1995, playing alongside Arnold Palmer in his final Open, Baker-Finch's opening drive was catastrophic. A snap hook that cleared the vast expanse of the first fairway, crossed the adjacent 18th fairway, and sailed out of bounds. Estimates placed it 120 to 170 yards left of his intended line. If the St. Andrews hook was shocking, the 1997 Open Championship at Royal Troon represented the nadir. Baker-Finch arrived having barely played competitively. The first round was a harrowing ordeal, finishing with an almost unimaginable score for a former champion, 92, 20 over par. The most telling moment came on the final hole. Facing a relatively straightforward approach, shot of around 60 to 80 yards, the fear of hitting a shank was so overwhelming that he couldn't bring himself to hit a conventional wedge shot. Instead, he chose an 8-iron and deliberately bunted the ball along the ground towards the green, a shot more typical of a beginner than a major winner. The emotional aftermath was devastating. Back in the clubhouse, he admitted to crying in the locker room. He retreated with his wife, Jenny, and caddy Todd Woodbridge to the champions room, where he reportedly collapsed on the floor in a fetal position for 45 minutes, overcome by despair. Baker-Finch withdrew from the championship immediately. This round effectively ended his career in major championship golf, despite his champion's exemption allowing him entry until age 65. The period leading up to the 1997 Open was marked by an almost complete inability to compete at the highest level. In 1995 and 1996, Baker-Finch entered 29 PGA Tour events and failed to make the cut in every single one. This wasn't just a slump, it was a wholesale collapse of his competitive game. While the Open failures were the most public, other incidents revealed the immense pressure he was under. At the Coolum Classic in Australia, his frustration finally boiled over. After hitting errant shots, he threw his driver into a tree, picked up his ball, and stormed off the course. When confronted by waiting press, the normally composed Baker-Finch finally lashed out, "Why can't you all leave me alone?" Facing the end of his playing career, Baker-Finch found an unexpected lifeline in broadcasting. In 1997, CBS approached him about a commentary role, and by 1998, he was working as an analyst. In 2007, he joined CBS Sports full-time, where he has become a highly respected voice in golf coverage. His experiences lend a unique depth to his commentary. His insights into the pressures of the game and the mental challenges players face occasionally carry the weight of personal experience. The success Baker-Finch found in broadcasting demonstrates significant personal resilience. Beyond commentary, Baker-Finch has remained active in the golf world, serving as an assistant captain for International President's Cup teams and captaining Australian Olympic golf teams. In early 2024, he was named chair of the PGA of Australia, a testament to the enduring respect he commands within the game. IanBaker-Finch leaves a complex dual legacy. He will always be remembered as the 1991 Champion Golfer of the Year, who reached the summit of the sport with grace and skill. Simultaneously, his name remains synonymous with one of the most profound performance collapses in sporting history, a cautionary tale of how quickly confidence can evaporate under pressure. Yet his successful career in broadcasting and continued respected involvement in the game demonstrate remarkable resilience and a lasting love for golf, allowing him to find redemption and carve out a distinguished second chapter in the sport.